Christmas brought so much joy. Couldn't wait for the presents and laughter. I couldn't sleep late at night, looking for Santa with lights. Those are the memories I still remember. Then I became a man, lost sight of who I am, but right in front of me was the answer. 'Cause on Christmas I feel joy, and I turn back to a boy. The answer is to stay young forever. This is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song, this is not a Christmas, this is not a Christmas song.
Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there are just 80 days until Christmas 2023. You have just enough time to fly all the way around the world in a balloon. In a hot air balloon, 80 days, you can do it. Okay, so you got to start now, though. There's only 80 days left. And I've got my friend Jason Ward here. Jason, you got the hot air balloon all fired up, ready to go?
I do. I willed this show into existence. You're welcome, everybody.
You are. I told Jason right before we came live, it's like, thanks for putting the pressure on to start the show like now. You've announced in your show, hey, I'm going live with Santa at 10. I was like, oh, that crap, that means 1 o'clock. I better hurry up.
I just got an email that I'm not going to do it, but it's all you're invited to Red One, not Rogue One, Red One, a story about a mythological operative, Dwayne Johnson, and an unscrupulous bounty hunter, Chris Evans, who are forced to partner on an epic globe-trotting adventure to save Christmas. Coincidence? You decide.
How come I didn't get that invite?
I'll give it to you. You can go to my place if you want.
I'm not going to Los Angeles.
Don't love The Rock?
Oh my goodness! You know, we've got some stuff to talk about today. You and Rob were killing it over there. Really good show.
Thank you.
So if you guys missed it, Jason went back and rewatched the Mortis arc, like Meg did. Meg went back and rewatched the Mortis arc.
Oh, she copied me. If that sounds like her.
Sure. Let's say that because she's not here.
Yeah. The copycat Meg, the copycat killer.
Meg did a great job of breaking that down. She gave some really good information in her video today too.
I wish I'd watched it. I could have cliff noted her. Would have helped. You know what I mean, though? Just to be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that she mentioned is about, how Balin said the deal about we go back to the beginning and, put it in. Well, in the Mortis arc, it talks about the beginning and the ending part of that story arc. So I was like, oh, look there. He borrowed from that too. So
the language in it is like, I'm more, you're more, all that stuff, like the same stuff that they're saying in the Ahsoka series, they're saying in that arc as well.
It's like the same guy was writing on both of them.
It's almost like it's all connected.
It's great. And for the next however long, we're going to get to talk about the Mortis arc and speculations and views and theories, and people come up with ridiculous ideas, and that's all fine. We can have lots of fun coming up with ridiculous ideas. Is
my pet ridiculous idea ridiculous? And that's that Ventress is buried on Dathomir. Therefore, when they resurrect the witches on Dathomir, if they are in those caskets, we get Ventress back. It stands to reason that she would rise with the rest of them, even if not on purpose. I think
it does stand to reason. And people love Ventress.
Yeah.
But, you have really, and I'm going to say something I think you told me off stream. So, I'm taking a risk. No, I'm not. This is.
Uh-oh.
Dave.
It still itches a little bit, but it's not. It's clearing up. You don't have to tell them. It's not any of their business.
No, there's all this speculation about Dave Filoni's being the heir to the Empire thing. You guys touched base on it in your show, but you pointed out something very, very pertinent
Mhm.
in the talk that the two of us were having. Dave doesn't steal or borrow storylines from EU. He'll steal like names and places.
Yeah.
Like he's done that, but we haven't seen him take a storyline. What we have seen him do is take things from George Lucas. So George Lucas Star Wars. He's
Yeah.
taken things from the original trilogy. Like it's it's obvious when you see it. Like, oh,
Mhm.
he's that's Han Solo, or that's
Yeah.
whatever. He's taken it directly from the prequels multiple times.
Right.
So we see him borrowing from those. If he were to make his movie some sort of tribute to adaptation is the wrong word.
Yeah.
And we've talked about
Adaptation is what
an
it's called.
adaptation. Yeah, I heard that on your show. It's now called adaptation.
Yeah, that's officially what you must say. We won't know what you're talking about if you don't use that term.
Right, exactly. So no, he's not doing an adaptation or an adaptation, right? He's not doing
Yeah.
and that's not going to happen. Star Wars has never done that. Never have they taken something from another genre, especially, and
Oh, like Norse mythology and like did the whole myth.
no.
Like
Well, I
like
mean,
straight up. No, but it's also true though.
yeah, that's
Like they will take little mythic things here and there, like, oh yeah, like when Prometheus stole fire from the gods, they would take that, but they wouldn't do the whole adapt Prometheus entirely with Ahsoka Tano. So far
right.
they haven't, anyways. We haven't seen
Right,
them.
and they're not doing a video game. They and you guys have pointed this out, and I think as a true or Bespin have been really good about saying, look, they don't take things from video games and put them into the shows or characters, story
Or
arcs.
if they do, they don't have something pick up at a different, like you don't do Fallen Order 3 as a movie now when it was a video game twice. It's just too, you wrap up the stories in the medium in which it's going, and then Cal Kestis can show up in some show some down the road, no doubt. But you would not wrap up the meaningful.
Yeah,
I actually have a little theory that's probably not actually true. But I was wondering, did that guy leave Fallen Order 3? Did the creatives leave because of the Ahsoka series using Night Sister stuff? Did their plans for Marin actually like end up being like, oh, you can't do it like that now? And they're like, that messes up our whole story. We have to start over from scratch. And they're like, oh, we're not interested. They moved on. Probably didn't happen, but that's my conspiracy theory.
conspiracy
Theory,
well,
conspiracy theory, though, not fact.
there are conspiracy theories out there that still prevail, but none of them have turned out to be true yet. But the other one, I think the best example there is of all is Dr. Aphra. Right? Dr. Aphra is a perfect character for Star Wars for 2023. She checks a lot of boxes for diversity.
Is that because she's a doctor? She a gynecologist?
Representation, for all the things, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So she does all the things, and she's a very popular character in the comic book series. Now, as I've mentioned before, the audience of comic books is what a slight fraction of the audience for Star Wars. Right?
Yeah,
it's tiny.
it's it becomes like it's sort of like a good little testing ground, a little sample of how did this little sample of fans take to something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't lead to large considerations, does it?
Well, I don't think, just as you were saying with Cal Kestis, like they're not going to take the Fallen Order 3 and turn it into a Disney Plus series or a movie. They're not going to take Dr. Aphra and turn her character into a Disney Plus series. I think it would work. It would certainly work, but they're going to leave it in the comics. It's not to say that she couldn't show up. I think it's the exact same statement, right? She could show up in a show. She could appear in something, but her story won't continue there. So when we go back to Ahsoka and we talk about heir to the Empire, for example, or we talk about what's the other thing? Oh, Abeloth, right?
Yeah.
The chances of Abeloth actually showing up, or the chances of Heir to the Empire being adapted, I ain't minute. I think
Yeah.
the chances now, and I every time I say this, I give you credit because it was a long time ago. You told me this that the Heir to the Empire stuff. Yeah, they're taking little pieces. We've seen Mount Tantus, of course. Thrawn is now canon. He has been for some time, but they're not going to bring in that storyline and move it over. I had a fantastic theory that we were going to see the Katana fleet
Mhm.
in where we went, right? That galaxy.
Yeah.
Nope, no Katana fleet.
Yeah.
Right? There's not even an adaptation of a Katana fleet.
And they could have.
They
And they
could have
easily
absolutely could have.
wouldn't have been. It wasn't a stretch. It was a pretty rational theory to have.
Right,
With what we knew at the time.
and we don't have some of the other archetypes that are in the series either.
Like Mara Jade, that character is
Perfect.
without you can't pull Mara Jade out of Heir to the Empire. The whole thing just collapses. She's like a pillar of the whole structure of that story.
Yeah,
She's nowhere to be found.
Right.
So it is, and then after with that, and after what we've seen with Ahsoka, it's time to start looking at it more, I think, as potentially a sequel to the Mortis arc. And when I say a sequel to the Mortis arc, once again, by this my same understanding of things, they're not going to go in and relitigate Mortis. They're not going to get you all up to speed with it. They're going to show you what is this concept in 2023's version of 8 years after Return of the Jedi. That's what it would be. And that's where I think, like, if the son died and the father died and all that kind of stuff happened in the previous stuff, how does it come about here? What happens then, and kind of, I would even say, if you want, I don't like it, but I would say that there's even hints that Anakin is the father at this point.
Well,
more than not, actually.
We'll talk about that in just a moment too, because you're going where I want to go.
Okay.
But as far as just kind of put wrapping on the present and put a bow on it.
Yeah.
As far as the Heir to the Empire series goes, we might see some other things borrowed. Like, I don't think we're going to see who is the Han Solo's buddy that ran Talon Card.
Yeah,
Talon Card. I don't think we're going to see a Talon Card, but maybe he could show up. We also had in that series Leia with the twin infants. That's not right at this point in the story. No. She's got a toddler Kylo Ren or Ben Solo running around.
Okay, can you help me with that?
Yeah.
How like whenever we used to ask, how old is Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
It was always like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like, oh, he's between like 27 and 34 or something like. It was always like, it was very like flexible. And I'm like, is there enough flexibility that right now he's not born? Now, I think he is born because he's on Balin's data pad. So I do think he's born, but I'm asking, like, what would if that's just a random Easter egg that Dave Filoni had nothing to do with, and somebody, just a prop guy, did it?
Well, no.
What is the possibility he's not born? Is there because
Han and Leia kind of got
Jakku,
busy
right?
doing Celebration,
and and he's born on the Battle of Jakku. Is that correct?
Well, let's start where it starts.
Okay.
Han and Leia celebrated at the end of the Empire.
Yeah,
they had a good evening together. They had a great night. And
wait, you mean it didn't happen on the honeymoon on the Star Cruiser? You're telling me that Leia was a?
Oh, I'm just.
She
saying.
wore white. She wore white, and she shouldn't have. Kathleen.
It was a forced marriage. Like, you got to do the right thing. That's why it didn't work.
It's not a shotgun wedding. It was a shogun wedding.
It was. You're getting me in trouble.
All right. All right.
And people like Rob was defending himself because he said people are dumb. They're going to think that I, really
Yeah.
think what you're saying. But no, I think yeah, they celebrated their victory, and
Yeah.
then a few months later they had a baby. Now, either that baby died or was adopted out, and nobody, all of the lineage was hidden, and Kylo was born, or Ben was born later.
Mm-hmm.
He's got an older sibling out there that nobody knows about,
Yeah.
or it was Ben.
Right.
So
Yeah.
if
Which, of
Ben
course,
was
is bad.
born, let's say within a year,
Yeah. Leia's like, people can't know I had this baby out of wedlock. I gotta give it up for adoption. That ain't gonna happen.
Rob's right. The baby was Finn. Let's be honest. No,
Baby
no.
was Lando. That's what the Lando movie's about. Oh no, I betrayed my best friend. What am I gonna do with my life?
So
It's all Nia Num's idea. All right.
So if Robert St. Clair says 5 ABY Ben Solo per the star line. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah,
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah. So yeah,
Robert keeps me sane, by the way. I say something stupid. He's always like, actually. Thank you, Robert.
I was just having fun.
But I was curious as to how much play they have, and I remember was he born at the same time as the Battle of Jakku, or am I misremembering that now?
I don't know. The month and year of it.
You don't send him a birthday card every ABBY.
It's in the vicinity of.
Okay.
It's in the vicinity of. But in any event,
ABY.
Ben Solo, at the time of Ahsoka, is a toddler, or preschooler, right? So maybe 4 or 5 years old.
Perfect size for Luke Skywalker just to come in and be like, saving the future. Homer Simpson him right there.
Of a rhyme we used to say with dandelions. I'm not going to say it now because it would just be terrible.
Choke that chicken walker. That's what I say.
We used to pick up dandelions with the yellow when they were still yellow.
Yeah.
And you can pop their heads off.
Oh. There we go.
And there's a little rhyme that goes with it.
Yeah. Hey.
But in any event.
After Star Killer, I think it's fair game, honestly.
So none of that's happened. So we've got a 4 or 5 year old Ben Solo running around.
Yeah.
So I guess you could sort of say that she's trying to protect her child, and there's all this stuff going on in Coruscant, and she ends up going out to with Chewie and hiding out on Kashyyyk and then running around the universe. None of that's going to happen.
No.
Just none of that's going to happen.
It wouldn't need to.
No,
they're all eating popsicles and being like, everything's great here, right now. Thrawn's not here. We're all good.
We're all good.
Yeah.
It's just Robert says it's on the same page as the Battle of Jakku in the book.
Okay.
Also listed here, Ahsoka and Sabine begin their quest to find Ezra. So that all happened about a year after. So it's taken them 4 years to find Ezra, 4 or 5 years. Which is weird. That's when they.
It would stand to reason that they had some either half-hearted or unsuccessful attempts to before clues and to figure it out, and didn't get anywhere. Sabine's family's eradicated. Now Ahsoka sees that she has a lot of hate in her, and it's too dangerous, and she's afraid, and she decides not to teach her.
Right.
So I think that would be the story now. Right.
So I think we can close the Heir to the Empire dialogue.
Yeah.
Right? Anything else that we see reflected from Heir to the Empire is just going to be coincidental, or things that borrowed, like George Lucas always did, like Dave has done. They may borrow elements here or there. We may see a visit to Mount Tantus at some point, but I would not expect to see a Jorah Sabaoth. That's another huge element of Heir to the Empire, and people keep kind of contemplating or forecasting is Balin, George Sabaoth,
Hmm.
the equivalent.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I don't think he's a kind of mentally disturbed clone of
Yeah.
another Jedi. I think he is a Jedi.
No, he's not. He's
Right.
not. And honestly, with like, I think with like Ray's passing and what happens, I think one of the simplest ways to fix that would be probably to deep fake Ray onto a big actor, and then like literally just have him open the Pandora's box, and then that be the eradication of the character and the opening of the box. And then that would remove him from the table, and it could even be done as if he believes it's a sacrifice. That he knows that by bringing apart this battle, it will lead to like the end of the Mortis people messing with our place. You
Yeah.
know,
Lewis,
it's possible.
what I mean here is that if you look at media across all the different genres, having female leads of LGBTQ plus and of minority um, races, those are big elements that check boxes for studios to create content around. That's what I mean. Is it mean that I think that that makes great shows? Certainly not. Certainly not. Those things are don't in and of themselves make anything great. If you have something that's great that includes those things, so be it. I don't care. I think it's great to do that. But the first of all, the characters have to be well written, the story has to be compelling, and it has to be something that uh, excites an audience. Those are the things that make something great. But if you look at studios and you look at the content they make, the kind of things they look for are minority check boxes. And so they start check boxing things. Dr. Afra checks a lot of boxes. That's all I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
In the day we live in, that's what they do, right? Um, let's see, where was with how much Dave defended the sequels and Ray as a character. When do you think we get a point where we address some of her storyline by him? Well, it's still a long time. So we just talked about Ben. Ben's like 5 years old. Ray's not born yet. So
And Mortis happens because the Mortis part moment in that story happens because the father gets wind that the chosen one is out there. He hasn't known this whole time. If we Ben Solo is born, but we have the dyad. Remember, the dyad's the big we didn't see that coming. That comes down the road. But Ben might be the new chosen one, and we know that George Lucas was going to make Leia the chosen one. In actuality, that was going to be his big switcheroo. But then we have Ben, who does come and play a part in that, and that's her son, still the lineage and all that. But there's a chance that when Ben is born, that's just when they know. But maybe things go sideways in this version of it in some way, and then that's why we have the dyad even form out of this, which is out of Palpatine, which is once again plays into Rey and Kylo are actually pretty good avatars of those characters, of the
right.
sister and the brother. You know what I mean? In that way, in the sense of who their characters were to one another, especially. So,
Yeah.
and then when we get to Mortis too, remember the brother's not evil. He is inherently he will always make the selfish choice. She will always make the selfless choice. That's what it says in there.
Yeah.
But he's forgotten that. They've just kind of like have been contained in this place, and they've forgotten. It's when Anakin's misdeeds come to light that he starts to go, oh yeah, and it starts to get more power. And then as the father is dying, that's when we get Anakin makes his choice and all that. So if they do that again, conceptually, it would kind of be the start of the next thing. It's possible, anyways,
Well,
if they want to pick it up.
I mean that is part. The other obvious part, it has been kind of alluded to in the Mandalorian season 2, especially, but then the, somewhat afterward, even in Mando 3, when they have the council of
Mm-hmm.
folks and they tell Gideon, "Oh, you've got your own little cloning project going on over there." But that doesn't mean there isn't another cloning project going on separately from Gideon's cloning project. And that leads us straight to Snoke. It's going to be a direct line to Snoke, and I think that we're looking at Snoke coming into Dave's story potentially to tie it to this to start the path towards the sequels.
Yeah.
I would look for that first, only because um, we still have Andy Serkis around. We still have all those assets in to create a Snoke on screen from the movies. So the cost is where I'm headed with that.
Oh, and another place too is that it in the Mortis arc, they say there are many people who there are people who know about us and they basically would love to kill us. In Mortis, it says that. And which implies in that story, Palpatine would love to get his hands on them and kill him for his own reasons. And I always love the idea of Snoke, the man, not the clone, the original, of being in there and a part of that. And then they do get him. They do drop his, like how Savage throws King Katunko at the foot of Count Dooku, doing that with Snoke. And they're like, okay, clone that guy. That's me, my new body. You know what I mean? Like there's fun ways of linking all this stuff and making it work. And Snoke is as big as them. Snoke is a big guy, and they're big guys too. So they could do it if they wanted to.
Well, he's not that big, but his projection was that big.
No. He's very tall. He's not human size. He's taller than a human. He's taller than Chewbacca.
I thought you were talking about the statues.
No, I'm talking about like Snoke's height, like actual height, and then the father's actual height.
Okay.
Like
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So I would expect to see more paths tying to Snoke, because we've already seen little elements. If we would see a young Ben, that's possible. But where you start getting into some issues are everybody says, well, let's just de-age everybody. Well, they could de-age, just do that. Well, we got to remember there's some cost. And some of the complaint coming from Iger towards the studios that your streaming content costs too much money. We can't make a profit when you guys spend more than we make. So you're gonna have to bring that down just a tad. So
math is hard. I don't like talking about it.
If that's the case, I think that makes it less likely we will see de-aged Han, Luke, Leia, Lando, and so on and so forth. I just don't see them being able to do that.
Indiana Jones 4 or 5, I would be like, yeah, probably not. But then at the same time, we don't really know if they made any strides in that from Indiana Jones. Like Indiana Jones was one of the most recent times that they did a real serious, like, we're doing this kind of thing in cinema. So, but for Luke Skywalker, because on one hand, I think if you spend $100 million on getting Luke Skywalker into that movie, I think that's the closest way you get to $1 billion in this current climate with the Star Wars film.
Yeah,
I think the Indiana Jones one, they hadn't done any cultural maintenance on Indiana Jones in like 15 years, and then they expected people just to show up, and it didn't happen.
Right.
Luke Skywalker has had the cultural maintenance over the last 15 years, though. I think he would connect. So
the complaint about all this content in Mandoverse, yet it doesn't feature our original folks,
right?
Especially Luke, Leia, and Han.
Yeah,
now, you can bring Chewbacca in anytime.
Snoke is 7 feet tall. If I did the math right, 218 centimeters in feet. It's like 7 feet tall. So he's a Chewbacca.
Yeah, that's about
almost a Chewbacca. He's an 8 foot tall one.
So I think one of the major reasons we haven't seen Han, Luke, Leia is it costs too much money to create them on screen. The de-aging can be done. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. There's still some complaints about how good it looks. It looks a little wonky here or there, and there's complaints about that. You either do it too much or not enough, and it's when it's done really well, you can still tell, and it's not there yet. So I think that we will see other stories told, and again, Jason, we talked about this off air.
Mhm.
It's a universe. There are other stories going on. You know that during World War II, the biggest event going on on this whole planet, there were parts of this world that didn't have anything to do with the war.
There were people in the United States who didn't know the war happened because they were like in Appalachia style places, and we're like, what, really?
Yeah, and you know there are world events that happen that had nothing to do with it. And you go back to the Egyptian Empire, you go back to the Roman Empire, you go back to the Chinese Empire. Like there
Yeah,
are huge eras in human history that happened and did not involve at all the other parts of the planet. And that's just one planet. That's just one planet. And the events of those huge things in this planet's history have had downstream impacts today that we can still see.
yeah,
Plenty of it. So it's left its mark on the whole of human history, but it didn't impact other parts of the globe. To say that during the original trilogy era, in the events following the original trilogy era, must include Han, Luke, and Leia because they're the biggest things going,
yeah.
is sort of closing down the scope of what you can tell. Why not tell something going on somewhere else? And especially when you start to consider the cost of de-aging those characters, or uh, alternatively, the acceptance of the fandom of recasting them.
Hmm.
Right? I
Yeah.
don't mind recasting, but a lot of people do. And you know, if they
Mhm.
recast uh, Leia, and people are like, "That's not my Leia," yeah, well, what are you going to do?
But here's the other. I would say I go both ways on it. I am actually truly be happy or fine with either way, recasting or deep baking. If you want to spend your money, spend your money. When it cut into your profit margin, cut into it. I don't care. That's your
Yeah.
problem. But the thing about this one is, like, for instance, Indiana Jones. You want to de-age all of Indiana Jones. That means Indiana Jones in every single shot he's in is de-aged, and it has to be, and the work goes into that. In the film, as we are assuming it will be, is a Star Wars Avengers film. And when the Star Wars Avengers happen, not every single scene has Captain America in it or Tony
Yeah.
Stark. Now, if you put one in, like Luke, it's that's not so crazy to me at that point. Han, Luke, and Leia, you do run into a little bit more. Okay, this is getting a little bit more out of hand, a little bit more expensive. But look at what the Han, Luke, and Leia did for the sequel trilogy film for the first one. That was a big part about why that movie made, is the amount of money that it did. And I think if they were to do that, they wouldn't get exactly that much money back, but they would get a lot of those people who went to see that because of that. They would get some of those people, at least, I think, in a healthy way. So, but will they give Filoni the money to do it? Is he the man to do it? I'd say he's the man to do it, but would they give him the money to do it? That's more of the question.
Well, I think in a blockbuster theatrical release, maybe in a
Mhm.
Disney Plus series, I
Yeah.
think the chances are getting lower
Mhm.
because there's a lot of
We didn't get Leia and Ahsoka, right?
right,
To your point that
exactly,
you have to make. Yeah.
exactly. You brought C-3PO instead, right?
Yeah.
Um, that, and I think you're more likely to see stuff like that, or you might see hologram kind of images, because the de-aging and the
Yeah.
CG on
Then
a
put it through that
hologram.
effect. It's more realistic at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to look as wonky. But
Mhm.
that so all of that being said, to say
Mhm.
where are we headed with this Ahsoka series, and what might we see happening? And I'll touch base. There's two comments here that come right after. So Sam said, the rate of Star Wars content created with no end in sight, Lucasfilm will perpetually be recasting, as they say, the new Luke ages beyond that story window. If you stay in the same era, there's some people that think all you should do, all Star Wars content should be prequel era with Anakin Skywalker. All of it.
Well, he's the
Well,
most powerful. He's so powerful.
well, I mean, fine. I mean, that's you love that guy, and
He'll do. He'll kill kids. He'll get
Hayden's a
married.
great
He'll
guy.
do anything it takes.
Hayden's a great guy, but 50 years from now, Hayden may not be up to being, you know,
But if you on there like this in 50 years, digital actors are going to be like very free. They're going to be cheap and free.
And then-
Singularity, man.
Brian,
It's
but
coming.
fandom's going to be mad either way. Either it's a poor de-aging, or they'll be unhappy for a recast.
Yeah,
Yes,
probably true.
yes, that's the case.
I would agree with you.
There
That is the most likely outcome of either of those. Yeah. Paths.
Yeah, and the town of Mr. Griffin is we should move past the Skywalker saga. Yes, it's time. It's time. Outside of animation,
They are though. That's the other thing to remember. They can do the Skywalker saga and not do it, and Acolyte's not doing it, and then as we move on to the if the Mangold film happens, that's moving before. Maybe the first Skywalker for all we know, but it's moving before. So it stands to reason it's not. So yeah, they're definitely doing that.
and
so
then we have the Rey movie as well, and that's
which you could still, which once again though isn't really a Skywalker saga film either.
right. That's
Because that's like a lot of people think, oh, if it has the character from the Skywalker saga, that means it is. But if it's about Rey and two pupils, it stands to reason. Just like the people complaining about Ahsoka, why is it called Ahsoka with Sabine's in every episode? Okay, why wasn't it called Sabine? You know, well that's probably why that new film's not going to be a Skywalker saga film, because it's probably going to be Rey, and then it's going to be about her pupils, and she will probably take more of an Obi-Wan Kenobi role, but a younger, hipper, more attractive and palatable Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, and I think Rey and Finn, certainly it would be good to get him involved as well. Will help bring along a new generation of fans into the story, and then once we can move on beyond that, then we've got another chance to grab another group of folks. So I think that's the case. I saw a good message from Arya regarding the Mortis situation. Since they're all dead, what else has that much power to somehow call upon Balin? Is Filoni's creating a new thing, perhaps concept from George back in the Mortis app? So I do want to touch base on this, and I saw that. Hold on a second. Hey, I see some folks. I see. Yesterday we had Scotty Hawk come in, and Scotty brought up a couple of good points, as well as Trev, that in the end, when we see Balin standing on the arm of the father's statue, and he's pointing across on the mountain across the way, you can see a beacon, and it's a bit of a pyramid looking. Think of when they first discovered the Sphinx in Egypt. It was covered in sand, but a little bit poking out the top. Sort of the same deal. There's all this earth around it, but at the top you can see a point with a beacon on it. That beacon could very well be a Sith temple or some sort of artifact from Mortis or something.
Because like the Mortis itself is once again a representation of something, but in the representation we saw it before, it was essentially two stacked pyramids flying in space.
Yeah.
It kind of came to them, but then it kind of didn't, because Rex ends up at the spot and he's like, "Where are you guys?" And they're like, "We're here." And then so it's
right. So I don't think it's on Peridia. Right? I don't think Mortis is on Peridia.
Right.
But like I don't think that Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka went to Peridia, but I don't think they were on a planet.
No, it's definitely not like the same place. Like the seasons are changing, and there's little avatar islands flying in the sky that you could go live on if you want to, and that's not what we saw there. It was the Noidian Highlands that we saw.
But could it have been? And they had this seasonal change like every day, right? You had all seasons within a day.
Well, in the first part, they're like, it seems like the seasons are changing with the hour. And then the next episode, they're like walking and it's just like changing immediately. And it's just like, okay. They're like, this place is weird.
Yes.
They just wanted to do the visual. They just wanted to do that, So
what could have been calling out to him is this temple that's on Peridia that's connected to Mortis in some way.
Yeah.
And the Mortis gods in some way. Now, the Mortis gods are dead. All three of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're dead. At least from the story arc.
But
the archetype or whatever was going on out there.
What happens is Anakin brings balance to the place. And then now it's up to Anakin to go and do what he needs to do in the real world. Dead? I disagree with dead. I would say taken off the table, taken off the chessboard for that time. But now the board's been reset. So he says in the thing, these are just the forms you're like seeing us as.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're bats. Sometimes they're like griffins. Yeah. Sometimes they're, you know what I mean? Like all of that stuff.
And remember, the father was saying, I'm tired. I got to go. I'm done.
Yeah.
Anakin, how about you take my job and I'll just drift away. It'll be great. And Anakin's like, nah, don't think so. So the Mortis.
Have you seen Natalie Portman? No way, bro. That's what he basically said. That's how I interpreted the scene.
Fair. Yeah. But so if it's the Mortis sphere of whatever, then which we don't fully understand yet,
the higher plane kind of concept.
Yeah, if it's Mortis, let's just say calling out to replace
the Anchorites,
the dead gods that have passed.
Yeah.
So it's calling out, and he hears it. Is Anakin going to fulfill the role of the father as he was asked to do previously?
Yeah.
And is Ahsoka, I believe Ahsoka is still an embodiment of type of the daughter. The Morai still follows her around and all that kind of thing.
The daughter, though, her thing, or the big thing that she says in that arc is, I always make the selfless choice. He always makes the selfish choice. And at this point, we have to get to a point where we accept that Ahsoka is completely selfless. That could have happened when we get to the Ahsoka the White sort of concept at that moment. But I would also say I don't know if she's completely selfless. I haven't had enough evidence to say she is. And also, I kind of feel like if it was going to go that way for her at this moment, not saying it won't go that way, but at the moment, I think we would have seen the sister / Morai the Owl clothing and concept being applied to the character, and it's not there yet in the visual language. I'm not saying it can't be. It definitely could happen. That might be the end game too. When at the end she's there and she's in the stained glass.
Almost presumes that each successive generation of that character picks on the physical attributes of the previous iteration of that character,
there's a problem with that.
Movies.
Right? Yeah, right. Well, no, and
Alan all of a sudden looks like me, but but maybe that's not the case. Maybe each iteration has their own personalities.
And like George Lucas, when he goes and he comes up with that idea in that moment, he's like, "Oh, I'm kind of wrapping Star Wars up. You know what? I think I'm going to do Episode 7. I'm kind of moving." So remember, when Mortis is happening, Lucas is like, "Oh man, financial crisis is happening. I'm losing my shirt here," and also kind of getting a little inspired with the Clone Wars. So it's looking good for Star Wars at that moment. But he's like, oh yeah, this guy's maybe thousands of years old. It doesn't really specifically state how old he is, but they're it's implied they're ancient. He's the last chosen one from another bygone era of Star Wars we never even considered. And then now that we have this living Star Wars, I think we're moving more towards the chosen one and balance being a generational act as opposed to 1,000 years ago, because they just have to. They have to go that way. So yeah, it kind of makes that thing oh, so how do they contend with that? What are their options there? Yeah,
I think there's stuff coming, and it'll be really interesting to see where it goes. It's going to be fun. But we've got lots of theories think that Shin is going to become an archetype of Luke and Mara Jade. Mara Jade. I don't. I think we've already dispelled that.
Yeah.
I think
I'm going to tell you right now, Luke couldn't handle her.
no,
He couldn't even take her. He couldn't even go to coffee with her. I'm just be real. He couldn't hang. The conversation he'd be like this. He'd be like, "No, you like power converters?" And she'd be like,
"You keep going back to Luke." No, if you replace Mara Jade with Shin, you have to replace Luke with somebody else.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, it could literally be Luke because he is there at the time, and it would be Luke because Mara's not there, but Luke is. So, but I will see your point that you could have Ezra play that role. But once again, you don't. It's like Shin doesn't wake up every morning once again going like, "Must kill Ezra Bridger,"
right?
Or Luke for that matter,
or Sabine,
Yeah,
right? She does have a beef with Sabine. She's already fight Sabine a few times. They
call it a beef and bean. That's what they call it.
they could tie that relationship together.
Yeah.
Because there has been a history, but to say that that's an adaptation of Heir to the Empire is kind of a stretch, right?
It's a big stretch. Yeah.
So
it just at that point you're just taking components of storytelling and being like, here's a parallel, and it doesn't pertain,
Right. Exactly, and that's what you told me off air before.
Yeah, that was my sense.
And what we see here in this comment, right, are the spirits of the Mortis gods looking for new homes. Ahsoka's already taken the spirit of the daughter, the spirit of the son calling out to, perhaps calling out to Balin, and then the spirit of the father already called out to Anakin. Is Anakin responding? Why? I don't know. I think that's a stretch, but we'll see.
Or
no.
I mean, but also consider the other possibilities with what the Jedi have achieved in this era that they had not achieved before. The Jedi have transcended since the prequel era into a place while we like to think of them as being down and out and murdered and everything like that. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi mastered life after death, retaining your identity after death. So there's a chance that the iteration of it might not be a trinity, so to speak. It could be, you might have the Force ghosts that have done it. Liam Neeson, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all these people could be in this realm, and it might be more of a council. And then you have some of the evil thing, and you end up with this other form of imbalance and balance and stuff like that. The possibilities are there.
By saying that, a lot of people have been saying, well, Ahsoka will establish a new Jedi order out in this other galaxy, and then we'll have an alternate to the sequel trilogy for folks who want to love Star Wars again but can't accept the sequel trilogy. We can just follow this Jedi order that's in Peridia in this galaxy and the things they're over, because they're not beholden into any other history going on in the other universe. They can have their own and not conflict with one another. We don't have a multiverse. We don't have different timelines. We have other story opportunities that aren't tied to anything, and we could see that develop. So perhaps what we're seeing is like a Mortis Academy.
Well, like the thing about that thing though is it's like then you're just making a militia, and you're moving the militia out to the middle of nowhere. Like, oh, we have a Jedi Order here. Yeah, we don't protect the galaxy. We just like protect like this general jurisdiction of this county. Nothing happens here. It's totally pretty much just like we just chill here most of the time. Yeah, stuff's going on. Like episode 7, 8, 9 are happening down the way, but this is our jurisdiction. It's cool here. I mean, it doesn't make sense that those Jedi then don't answer the call when Kylo Ren rises in the First Order. You know what I mean? All that stuff like that is. But I do agree with, and I do think that place was created as a playground to tell a new saga of a new thing. So I agree with like the fundamentals of that. Like I think if Rey hadn't died and maybe if Filoni's movie wasn't greenlit, we might have had like a whole next season might just be on that planet with Shin and her raiders, and what's Balin doing, and how do the girls going to get home, and all that kind of, like that might. But now I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit more expedited into getting into that film,
Well,
in theory, anyways.
I am excited about the potential to see another story arc develop. Like we know, like that the Dathomirian witches.
Yeah,
They said this used to be a great empire or kingdom or whatever of these witches. And so you could go back in time and you could go through history. You got the oh shoot. There's been allusions to them everywhere, and we thought that, and even some of the writing on the temple out here goes back to them. They've got a shorter name. They were in the Jedi games.
The Zepho?
The Zepho. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was painful. So the Zepho, we could go back and explore, things going on with the Zepho. There's tons of stories that can be told in this other galaxy that aren't tied to the Empire. They're not tied to, the rise of Palpatine, any of that. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a ton of storytelling that can be done out there, and almost any timeline you want to do. It doesn't have to pick up from here. Now we've established the place exists, and we could come up with all kinds of other stuff, and that's exciting. The Talking Sith, $5. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. It says, a theory: Son survived the lightsaber wound like the others. Like the others, lightsabers have been kind of nerfed, right? That's the word that you gamers use.
Well, the father is literally grabbing a lightsaber with his bare hand, like, "What are you going to do to me? I'm a Zen master." To Anakin.
It says the dark side has been prominent since. Until Anakin's ascension, he's the only anchorite on Mortis, right? The anchor, the centering power.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible.
But see the other side of it is that it, like the Mortis, the backstory of those characters in Mortis is that they all three of them became so powerful that they were just too powerful to be out in public. He had to put them into Mortis as a sanctuary and a prison. So it's like that would require, in a way, the story to move on to like the characters to somehow obtain unlimited power and then have to be sort of locked away. Like, so in this instance, you would have a character like Balin go down into the thing, sort of an Abeloth kind of thing, gets the drinks from the water or whatever, has too much power now. Then to match him, Ahsoka must do it. And then they have to lock themselves away because they just can't be out with the mortals anymore.
Yeah. And that's a possibility. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Considering that it's a whole galaxy, we've only explored part of one planet for just a couple of days, right? We've been there a few days.
Yeah,
there's a ton of things that could be going on in that galaxy. Other planets that are completely developed. There could be a Coruscant-like planet in that galaxy. There could be all kinds of stuff going on out there we don't have any clue about. We've got the opportunity to build out the galaxy however far it wants.
Yeah, that the planet that we're on is very like post-apocalyptic. There's you ever seen that painting that's called, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's like the course of the Empire, and it's like Roman stuff, and it shows like a Roman kind of thing, and then you see how it's like it's sort of fallen, and now it's like everything's overgrown over it and stuff. It's like nature. It's the idea is that nature takes the empires back in and just digests it and eats it. And it was sort of like early American painters were like, "Oh yeah, this is us. Like we're going to be the new Rome, but if we're not careful, nature will consume us." It kind of plays into that manifest destiny stuff a little scary there. But you know what I mean? Like it does do that. And like so that place definitely reminds me of that kind of idea. When you see it, you're like, "Oh yeah, it's moving back into this wilderness kind of place because it's fallen." And then I have to think that the Night Mothers who are there, I don't think they want to be there though. I don't think they're like I said, like in a rush, like Arya says, but they definitely, what was their bargain with Ron? What was their part of the deal? What did they want? And that's why I'm more inclined to think that in the end it's the corpses of the fallen witches of the past that are there, and that they want to take them back to Dathomir, maybe because of that planet's power. Maybe that planet has enough power. I mean, maybe they've already kind of tapped with the threads of destiny stuff there, and maybe they need to go back. Dathomir's the other place like it, and maybe by doing it, that will allow them to resurrect their cult. And I also think that there's two things going on here too with the resurrection stuff. And I think one is the volunteers decided to become zombie monster men who would bite Ahsoka's face off and stop her from doing what they wanted. And because they believe in this there are these fascist cause, they're like, this is worth it. I must sacrifice myself for the Empire. I'll do it. But I also think that some people get resurrected and it's not zombie man. I think it's both. As I don't think you would want to go and resurrect your cult full of zombie monster men like you would. And Bespin was bringing up to me. He's like, if that happens, he's all, do the Zabraks rise too? And like the Zabraks are in like a different place I don't know if they're on Dathomir or a different planet. I know it has a different name. I can't remember that.
There's a theory that maybe that was their home planet. Like it was Zabrak before the Dathomirian witches arrived, and they renamed the planet Dathomir.
But the what do you call it? The in the Fallen Order game, the Zabrak zombies do rise up from Marin is making them rise up to protect the temple that you go into. So it does stand to reason that while Darth Maul doesn't make sense to rise in this concept, unless they go find his body on Tatooine, dig it up, and bring it back, you would have essentially zombie Darth Mauls popping up out of the ground in part of that force. If everything rises back up, you know what I mean? And but if you think about like the potential for this spiraling out of control and what it could mean for like the stories told in the era and how are they going to deal with all this stuff, it's crazy and it's super fun.
Yeah,
I mean, like it's super fun.
I agree. It is super fun. Lewis asks a question for you. It says, has there been any insider information on recasting Baylan?
I've asked a little baby bit about this before, and every single time it's just been like, yeah, nobody knows yet. And honestly, I don't think that choice will be made until the next show is greenlit, and then they know like what they're going to do. I don't, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they've written the next parts of the Ahsoka thing. I'm not saying they haven't plotted it out, but I don't think they've written it. Yeah. So I don't think, and with the strikes and stuff, what's been going on, I think it's highly unlikely they have. And so I would imagine that they haven't made up a choice. They don't know how they're going to deal with it and what they're going to do with it yet. And he's in a place now, like I said, where I think he could literally just open the Pandora's box and when you open up the Ark of the Covenant and Raiders of the Lost Ark, what happens to you? But imagine if you unleashed a power when you opened up the Ark of the Covenant. Now the power of God's out here. Then, it changes things. So So what are they going to do? Yeah, with him. That's like, I think I'm looking forward to the first Filoni interviews where somebody asks him what they're going to do.
Yeah. Well, there was a quote that came out yesterday.
Okay.
And I posted it in our Discord that says, let me see. We hear that Ahsoka season 2 is more of a reality in the conversation.
Oh, this is the deadline.
Nothing is locked in yet. Yeah. So originally they had that credited to Filoni, but then they retracted it and rewrote it. That didn't come from Filoni. That came from their writer. So when people started to report on it, the way that it was written was ambiguous.
Yeah.
And so they said, "Oh, Filoni said that." No. The writer of the article said that they're hearing that it's more of a reality, but nothing's locked in. And that's the same thing I think we've all heard as well.
Yeah.
Just from folks, like it is in the works, but nothing is locked in, which leads to the next question that Ahsoka season 2, and I heard you talk about this on your show. I'm just bringing it in here for
this is a new show. It's for a game.
No. It's just that it bears discussion. Ahsoka season 2, by all means, was set up by Ahsoka season 1. Will the story continue in another season of Ahsoka, or will the story continue in, say, Skeleton Crew, Mando season 4, and other projects.
Yeah.
The story is definitely going to continue. This was the beginning.
It'll probably be 3 episodes in Book of Boba Fett too, for some reason. Probably for some reason. They'll just do it that way. Right?
Oh, that's my fear. Right?
Yeah.
That's my fear. I think I would love to hear some confirmation. Like, we need some interviews, and I'm looking forward to like the gallery. Maybe we'll see something come out of that. But I'm looking forward to some postseason interviews with Favreau and Filoni, and especially now that the writer's strike is over. As we get closer to finishing the actor strike as well, let's
probably on Monday. Probably on Monday. It looks like.
You think so?
It looks like it could.
Oh, that's good. That's great news.
It could.
I'll be on vacation, but anyway, so those interviews are going to be crucial because that everybody's going to be asking. This was the beginning of a story. Where does the story go from here? Do we get a season 2 of Ahsoka? Or
and like the like a couple of just random things like there's concepts of how do you get the girls off the planet at the end of the thing too. And so if you go the Mortis way, they just step out somewhere else. You go the Republic. Ezra Bridger made it home, and he's so if the bad guys can in secret on the down low make that ship and go get them, the Republic can do it too. And Ahsoka Tano is a Jedi. She's very valuable to them as a defense mechanism. So I think that they would potentially spring for it, and then go and get her. And they also don't have to bring back a Star Destroyer. They just have to bring them back. So it's not, they don't have to build the Eye of Sion to do it. Remember that. That's the important part. So there's and then there's some other new way. But there's like many possibilities about how they get off of there. And then the other one is the kids from Skeleton Crew. Do they end up in that same place exactly, specifically too? Like, does their ship do they fly out above their home and then get eaten by the space whale and taken there? Like, we don't really know exactly. And like, we know like these could be parallel thinking concepts that are sitting side by side. Ahsoka might have went here and they might be going here, and it's not the same place.
Right. It's a big galaxy. Somebody mentioned before they thought that Peridia was the entry point to the galaxy. I don't think so. It's a particular place they needed to get. You could have gone to that galaxy and then made your way to Peridia, or you can make your way to Peridia, then go to other places in the galaxy. So there's tons of options there. We don't know the migratory pattern of the whales, right? We don't know.
Can I armchair rewrite real quick?
Sure.
It was right there. Ahsoka falls into the water. She goes into the hallucination, right?
Yeah.
Now, it seems like it's 5 hours to her. It's really 10 seconds. Time moves different when you're on drugs, trust me. And so she's in there though, right? She makes the choice to live. The space whales could have gone there to go into the water, and they could have just eaten her and then whisked her away there that way.
Oh, yeah.
And then they could have, you know what I mean? And then went to the planet and she could have swam out of Peridia. I'm just saying it was right there. It made the most logical sense to do it that way. But anyways.
Well, there's lots of options. So but what's the migratory pattern of the Purgle? We don't know.
Yeah.
How often do they show up there? Every 12 hours?
Every year?
Days?
Yeah.
1,200 years? We don't know.
Right.
Like they could just
Ezra never went and got in their mouths and flew back home.
Well, he didn't have a ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have a ride.
You could have stole a TIE fighter though, and I'm just saying he's a little bit of a quitter on that one, but okay, I'll give it to him.
Yeah. And so a couple questions coming up here for you specifically. Are we going to get to see the evil Yodas that you heard rumors about?
No, I never heard so to be clear on that, I was always in the camp that's BS. And that was like a 4chan leak. And we just looked at the 4chan leak that day. We're like, what are they saying? There was like one thing in it that the 4chan leaker guessed correctly. And it was like, okay, well, I know that's right. But it was kind of obvious. And it was like, okay, is this other stuff real? But that's something that's completely like bunk. And yeah, I mean, it's clearly just off of the Clone Wars when Yoda meets his hubris. It's just they're just taking that and calling it something else. It's a fun thing. It's a fun idea. But no, I never believed that was. actually happening, and I never reported it, and never was like, I was like, oh, somebody's saying this. Okay, that's where I was at on it, and then
Very good.
it comes back up because people like the idea,
Yeah.
but people also the idea's already been done. Live action though. But.
The other question has to do with the Mando pirates and some confusion about where they play in. Now, when we get to the skeleton crew, you've reported that those Mando pirates are going to be part of it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're part of the other galaxy part.
No. It's the same pirates from that place,
right?
Because in some of the episodes, they're like dealing with the pirates. I don't know, maybe all the episodes. I'm not even for all. There might be one episode. It might be all of them. So it did seem like the pirates were kind of around for a while, though. For what it's worth.
But the skeleton crew is rumored to take place partially in that other galaxy where Peridia is. But that doesn't mean that the whole season is in that galaxy where Peridia is.
Okay, no. For the record, I've never reported it's in Peridia. I said they go to a new place. It's a new place that we don't know about. So I that's what I'm saying though. If they go out to the far reaches of space, so to speak, we don't know for certain that if they do. But when you have all of the stuff going on at the same time and the production's on, you go kind of go like, it does seem like this is the same. They're place.
Going to the new galaxy.
It does. But I don't think we have a smoking gun that says they are definitely 100% going there.
Well, let's say they do. Let's say they do go to this new galaxy, and that is Ahsoka's ride back.
Yeah.
Let's say, if that's the case, it doesn't mean that it's the whole season takes place out there. It's to say that they will somehow end up there for part of the season, potentially.
Yeah.
As you're now, clarifying that I think is very good. So, don't get in your mind that the pirates. He says, unless those pirates get drug away too. We don't have anything saying that the pirates are going to be in this other galaxy, right?
Yeah.
A couple other questions.
I would go with I would go with, like I said, they end up like on the periphery at least, but I don't know if we can go all the way there. And then they're going to meet Jude Law, and the implication was he was a Jedi in the end. The code for him was he was the teacher during your production.
Yeah.
And but now we kind of see that he uses the Force and stuff. So it's like, well, what's the deal with that? And could they be the ones who rescue Ahsoka? They definitely could be, but based off of what they are laying out in the Ahsoka series, I wouldn't count on that at this point now. It doesn't feel the Goonies just showing up and saving Ahsoka and Sabine and from that thing. There's so much to do there. Unless the skeleton crew plot moves into it as well, and I don't think that's the case. I think if that was the case, I would have more overlap between the productions that would have revealed more to me about Skeleton Crew.
Let me see if I can put it succinctly.
Yeah.
Chances of them showing up at Navarro are much greater than them even showing up at all in Peridia Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah. And then I think Bespin did a story, and it's not it's the main pirate who betrays the green guy. The green pirate is the one who's like the pirate that's chasing the kids down. So, and also he might just be a shyster who's involved. The pirate might be like a shyster who they meet along the way, because they're going to meet these colorful characters on their journey. So
touch base on this real quick is easy, I think. Someone want to explain the two biggest holes of plot armor in Ahsoka? How does the damaged Chimera survive the hyperspace trip back to the main galaxy? There were holes. I repaired in the hole.
Shields.
No, they had a bigger problem getting there. The problem getting back isn't nearly as bad, because when they got there, the Purgles crashed in the front windows and exposed the interior of the deck, the main control deck, to the outside, and then they grabbed them and they hyperspaced them out with their tentacles going through the windshield, to put it in those terms. So how did they survive the trip to Peridia? being that they were exposed to the vacuum of space, presumably in hyperspace, like hyperspace is also a vacuum of space. How does that happen?
I would imagine. I would imagine that like in like a hospital, when there's a fire, the doors close and they shut off, and then like it takes like the oxygen in. So I'd imagine that like the first one where the hole breaches, they probably the doors lock and are
Or
still-
even like a docking bay, right?
Oh well,
Where they can fly
that's
right
the
through
question I have for you is are the if the witches caskets, this is what I'm going to assume they are now, are the witches caskets, are they on the Eye of Sion or are they on the Chimera?
Chimera.
So they are, and it just doesn't really matter because they're in those little
Yeah.
refrigerators.
But you think about
But the living people are probably on the Eye of Sion when they hyperspace
Well,
out, right?
Eye of Sion only has that small little bridge part.
Is it small though? I mean, the thing's holding a Star Destroyer, so that small bridge might be like the Mall of America in there.
No, have you
I
ever
don't know.
seen have you ever seen like a shipping port, like where
Yeah.
great big ships come
I
in?
live in Long Beach, so yeah.
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 So they've got this little tiny like control tower or whatever that's part of it, and then they've got this giant infrastructure around it where they can go and they can pick up stuff off of ships, or they can dry dock a ship or whatever. And but there's only maybe one or two people in the thing, right? The Eye of Sion's the same way. Like this great big thing has nothing, right? It's just it's just arms. Then the deck is the only thing. So it's not like the whole thing's a ship. Just the little part is a ship.
So we know for certain though that if they're not living in the ring, like the ring doesn't.
Yeah, I
have
don't think so.
Floors on there, maybe.
That's not my impression.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. That's not my impression.
They could just say it's that, then now it is, but looking at it, I would agree with that. Yeah.
When you go on when they come in and die, or ships come in, like you saw them in the Death Star, you've seen it on all the major ships in Star Wars. There's a blue energy shield kind of thing, and they just fly straight through it. The people on the inside of the shield aren't exposed to the vacuum of space.
Yeah, they're not being sucked out or anything.
Even though ships can freely fly through it, right? So what could very well be the explanation is that in a case where there's a tremendous breach like this, that energy shield kicks on and that they're preserved, which then leads you back to a complaint about The Last Jedi. How come then Leia gets sucked out into space when she could have just been protected?
It's called war, man.
Yes. So anyway, that's the biggest plot hole. I think it's covered by that. There was another, what was Dale saying? Thrawn's coming. You will wait. Where exactly was Thrawn? Was he hiding from Ezra? Oh, at the beginning, before he showed up there at the Mother's Temple, where was the Chimera? It could have been anywhere. And they could have, it could have been on the other side of the planet. It certainly didn't have hyperdrive. So it's not like another part of the galaxy. You could clearly see the hyperdrive engines are toast. It only has the sublight engines. So, but it could have been out of the, in orbit. It could have been anywhere. Could have been in a docking place where they're doing ship repairs, like a makeshift shipyard somewhere else.
Magic.
But as soon as they say, "Hey, call Thrawn," the Eye of Sion's here, he went ahead and came on over.
Well, it's like in Empire Strikes Back when Luke is landing on Dagobah. Is Yoda guiding the X-wing to him? As a child, I always just assumed that's what that was, because I was like, how is he going to find him in the swamp, and the whole planet's a swamp? How does he know exactly where to go and all that kind of stuff? And so, like when Thrawn ends up there and they're coming down, the witches might have been like, "Oh, something's here."
Yeah, a lot of times you just can't think too deeply on this stuff.
You gotta go with it.
Why no scene of Ezra stealing Balin and Shin's ship to escape and get to the New Republic? Balin and Shin's ship. That little shuttle they brought down from the Eye of Sion.
Which makes it kind of funny that they allow him to come land again, considering what happened last time. But
Well, no, I think he's asking why they didn't steal the shuttle that Balin and Shin brought down.
Yeah, they because no, they didn't. Well, it's I think it's the one that Balin and Shin land on in the beginning of the series to kill the guys, the Republic guys. That's Shin and Balin's little ship, and that's the one that he steals. That Ezra steals to flies out to go home to home
later.
Yeah.
But
And then he's saying why didn't they show that? And I think it's because it's just the end, and it would be a bunch of like, oh, he sneaks around, he gets in this, like, we just don't need to see it. We
don't have to see
without it. We all three of us, Louis, all of us are on the same page with what happened. We don't need it, so that's why.
Yeah. Hello, Mumbo Jimbo. Yeah, we don't need to see it, right?
Yeah.
Force shielding. Yes, that's what I was talking about.
Force shield.
What happened to the sword? The sword of Talzin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when Ahsoka had it, when you watch, you see that Ahsoka's second lightsaber is cut in half. Good thing you got who you.
Oh, it did. It got cut in half. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and it gets cut in half by the sword, and she drops it, and then she's got one saber, and she's fighting briefly Morgan Elsbeth with one saber, and then right at the end, she disarms her, takes the sword, and she slices her with both. You can see the green slice and the white slice across her abdomen. So, where is it? Ahsoka has it.
After she dies, there's like a subtitle that's like a whale, like a whale, like WAIL, that like goes into the thing, and then the witches are like, oh, she's dead, you know.
Well, and does it still have is it still viewed with the like knights or magic if Morgan's dead?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just another sword?
Yeah.
Or does it just go back to the, like, you know, is it just wisp away? We don't know.
It is the blade of Talzin, so I would imagine she has it now. And but I was kind of into the idea, but then after like the Darksaber stuff, I'm a little like, enough of that for now.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. But it'd be cool to see Ahsoka walk around like a shogun with the sword in a sheath, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. Stephen Murphy says there's this thing for Skeleton Crew on the leaks Reddit. It's from U.S. Copyright Office. Indicates 2401 for completion. So January mentions getting lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy in the plot. So I think that's where people are deducing some of that.
Well, it's funny that comes out now, but when you see it, the completion is 2024. The show is sort of, I would think it's actually complete, unless they're just redoing visual effects or touching it up and continuing to do stuff. But I mean, the show was done pretty much in tandem with Ahsoka.
Yeah, it's done.
And I would imagine Ahsoka took visual effects priority from the powers from the contracted effects houses and ILM. Yeah. But in total, I would imagine by now it would be done. And I know that it's been a little while now since I've known of somebody who has seen the first couple of episodes, and they were finished. So in my opinion, it's actually done, and that's all they just picked.
Now it's just
it's not coming out
because
it's not coming out next year. They're putting it as January. That's when it's done, because that's when
they just want to spread things out now as far as release dates because of the strike. Slowing down production of new content. So expect to see that stretched a little thin, and perhaps that pattern to stay and in the cost cutting stuff. That would be my guess. So Ahsoka kicks off the story.
Mm-hmm.
Your best guess where we see the story pick back up?
I would imagine it would be like Ahsoka 2.
So Ahsoka 2 comes before Mando 4?
No, unlikely, because Mando 4 is going to come out in 2025, and Mando 4 is. I personally, just from conversations I've had, I don't believe Mando 4 is actually finished being written. By the way,
okay,
but it would have been by the time It would have been by if they had done the October start date, this start date, the September October start date, that they would have been done by now.
Okay.
But all that during that strike, the revising wasn't happening, and so I'm not sure exactly when it's going to pick up 100% at this point. I have an idea, but I don't know 100%. And then I think that it. So, anyways, but that makes me think they have it written Ahsoka too, and so Mando 4 has to come out before Skeleton Crew. Mando 4 are definitely before Ahsoka 2.
So we have two storylines then that we can address. One is where we pick back up with Ahsoka's story. The second is, what about Thrawn and Ezra? Are they in Mando 4?
So in my opinion, what you do is, or how this kicks off is we cut back to Mando. He's like, "Hey, everybody, got this great idea. Me and my son, little Din Grogu Din, whatever it is. I'm raising him to be like me, and we're gonna go hunt Imperials because those guys are completely on the ropes. They suck. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. This guy's gonna get a couple of freebies, build up his confidence. You know, he's bounty hunting. He's out there. He's doing it right. He's a little Boba Fett. I'm Jango Fett. We're doing this thing." But then when he goes and he does it for a couple of episodes, and it's going good. Everything's cool. Carson Teva's like, "Here's $60. Go get James, the stormtrooper," and they're doing that stuff, right? Then Thrawn comes back. And then now they are going to step into the horn. They think that they're just going to go get a couple of wasps, but they're in the hornet's nest now. And then now, oh, you've crossed Thrawn. You're on the hit list. You're not going back from this. You're screwed. Yeah. But then all of the Ahsoka stuff will come and emerge, and then now there will be a natural alliance towards defeating this threat.
So let's encapsulate it. Thrawn's story ties into Mando 4. Mando 4 ties into
and Mando 4 would show us what happens when the Remnant meets up with Thrawn. Pelion and those cats are all like united now. Huck Senior, they're all together, and then like we see, oh wow, it's happening. Like it's, and so I would imagine it ends with Mando having made a huge mistake and deciding to go after Imperials at that moment. And then we see maybe Thrawn might have to fight a little bit with the Imperials to get them in line. He might have to take Gideon's clone and slap it around and get the blue paint all over its face. And then it's like, okay.
Well, we can get into the weeds a little bit more later. I just want to kind of outline the basic trajectory.
Yeah.
So Mando 4 picks up some of Thrawn's story. Following Mando 4, what is the next thing? Ahsoka 2, the movie, Skeleton 2. What do you think?
Yeah, the timeline that we have right now, to me, is impossible.
No, let's throw that out the window.
Okay, so if timelines don't matter, if there is no time crunch, then you would have to go Mando 4 to Ahsoka 2 to that movie for Filoni. And then but the actual, if you're asking about the actual Star Wars release of live action shows,
who knows? No,
okay.
Because we've got other things. We've got Acolyte, we've got other
Acolyte. I think Acolyte will be next.
Yeah, we've got non-Mando stories coming in.
Yeah,
but just in the Mandoverse, John and Dave, right?
Yeah, John and Dave,
their story, so to speak.
Skeleton Crew would be the next one to hit from the Mandoverse.
Right.
And I'm a little bit worried about it, like not having anything to do with any of the stuff. It might, but if it doesn't,
well, it's supposed to be the same time.
But it's like, imagine, you open up the Mortis guy at the end and it was like, what's happening? My brain. And they're like, okay, here's the Goonies now. It's like, oh man, I think it could be detrimental to the show because the fans are gonna be like, when's Ahsoka Tano gonna show up? Jason Ward promised me it's gonna happen.
Well, this isn't the Ahsoka show.
Yeah.
Why is Ahsoka in the non-Ahsoka show?
When it's Ahsoka, why is Sabine in here? Why isn't it just Ahsoka? And when it's Skeleton Crew, why isn't it Ahsoka? Right?
right. So Skeleton Crew, then Mando 4, then Ahsoka 2, then movie, then Skeleton 2 or Skeleton 2.
I don't know. Goody's never got a sequel. They might not know what to do.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Get it, but
we've got lots of time to talk about it because there's not another series coming for a few months.
Yeah. And Skeleton Crew, the thing about it is, like I was saying, those kids they can't wait 4 or 5 years to decide to make this next season. They need to actually do it or not, or just integrate the characters into the other shows. It has to be one or the other because they don't have that much time.
Well, you're kind of stuck with Jason Sindula as well.
Yeah.
Like you need to move. You got to get going, and you got to get some stuff in the can because they're not getting younger.
Yeah, and I'm pretty certain one of the kids in the Skeleton Crew is a Force kid too.
So what makes us believe Acolyte's jumping ahead of Skeleton Crew? So the original schedule, back whenever,
was BespinBulletin.com is why.
Yeah. Was Ahsoka. Then Skeleton Crew was supposed to be like December, January, February. Like
it was supposed to be like a Christmas thing. I know that. Yeah, I know.
It might have bled over into like the first week of February, like end of December to the beginning of February. Then Acolyte was supposed to be like spring, summer.
Oh, no. So Skeleton Crew was supposed to be November. And then the weird thing is it looks like it's going a whole year into another November now.
Well, it could be. So, but I'm just saying, then Acolyte was like spring, summer, then Mando for blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So what happened is the writer strike happened. What made them not just shift it together and made it jump Skeleton Crew past Acolyte?
So I hate to break it to everybody, but my Fandom Menace friends were completely wrong about Acolyte. Sorry, guys. You guys, this one. Know. But Acolyte is the flagship show of Disney Plus for 2024. That's the actual issue. Is that Acolyte is the show that they're trying to, like, it's intended. If it's not, then they failed. But their intention is that Acolyte is the flagship Disney Plus show of 2024, the main show, the main Star Wars show. It is the initiative is to make Acolyte the thing. A success for it to become, because and two reasons behind it. It came out really good. By all accounts, it came out really, really good. And in my opinion, this is my opinion now, if the Filoni movie comes out and it succeeds, I don't think you're going to have Dave Filoni making your Star Wars shows anymore. You're going to have Dave Filoni making your series of Star Wars films, and Acolyte will be what comes in that era, what becomes the main thing on Disney Plus.
Oh, I see, like Mandoverse.
The Acolyte, yeah, because it will, that film or trilogy of films, if it should be a huge hit, it will become that. And if it fails, then they will just simply take Filoni's stories back to Disney Plus. But if it does connect, I think that wraps up the Mandoverse era on television. It becomes a film thing only, and then Acolyte will become the new kind of like playground for a time.
There's some things like that. Acolyte has a hill to climb.
It doesn't. It actually doesn't, because those people are a small microcosm of non-Disney consumer. They don't really consume anything. They just hate shit, and then they make it seem like it's like they're the dominant voice in all of this. And same thing with me. I don't matter. You don't matter.
No.
They don't matter. We're all the weirdos. We're the fringe.
Yeah.
Of the bajillion Disney Plus consumer base.
Yeah.
It's the rando who sees the buzz things like, I'm gotta go to work today. I'm just maybe I'll watch that. Like they matter as much as we do. And I'm telling you, those people, like, they went and they now, I'm not the number one. Acolyte was never a woke initiative, but they hired people onto Acolyte that I would say are not woke.
We'll get an opportunity to dive into Acolyte as it ramps up. But you just look at the subscriber base of those channels, and I get there's a lot of cross breeding going on in there, right? There's a lot of that going on. But the big audience, a big fan base that belong to them in the microcosm we live in. Mm-hmm. Right. This goes back to a comment I made on a show yesterday. The movies are the biggest. Right? You boil that down to a small percentage, you get video games. You take it down to a much smaller percentage, you get the novels. You want to take it down to an even smaller fraction of a percentage, you get the comic book readers, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to say the entire space exists of nothing but the comic book readers, and they watch the other stuff too, right? They play video games, they watch the movies, whatever. It gives you some sense for how small that group is, and if that group is divided, it certainly represents a bigger picture, but the noise that you hear in your ear holes is from a really small group. They do represent a bigger group as a whole, and they will make a lot of noise. The one thing that will cure all the noise is great content.
It always does. But the other thing to remember is that like the fandom menace thing, it's all predicated on the fact that Leslie Headland's a lesbian.
Well,
but no, it mainly though.
Well, it also ties into the whole deal with what's his name, the pedo guy. Not pedo. He was
everybody worked for Weinstein. Everybody worked. So that makes Quentin Tarantino. That makes Kevin Smith. That makes everybody worked for that guy. So it's a stupid. That doesn't hold any water. It's like honestly, if she was a piece of shit like that, I would be right there. What a piece! She's horrible. That's what I would say. Yeah. But it's like it's irrelevant. They're trying to make it like they're confusing her with Epstein Island's chick who's in prison right now. It's like she would be in prison just like him if that was the case, and it's not the case. But anyways, all of the woke stuff is all based off of the fact that she's a lesbian. But here's the whole thing: if you think the average person knows who Rian Johnson is, they don't. The average person, if you go in the movie theater and say, "Who's Rian Johnson?" they'll go, "Your mom." They won't know what you're talking about. And they definitely don't know who Russian Doll's Leslie Headland is.
Right.
So unless there's something in the content that is, quote, woke and the people in Florida get mad about it, it's not. And we saw the trailer. There was absolutely nothing in there that said, this is just somebody trying to kill somebody. Like, I mean, that was all that was happening in that trailer. There wasn't anything. There wasn't her laying, there wasn't a same-sex kiss going on or anything like that. There wasn't any of that stuff. And so until there is some kind of, sign that like Leslie Headland said, I must represent gay San Francisco in 2007, I don't think that they're going to really have anything to really go on other than trying to cook that up. And like I said, I don't think people know who she is. If she was super famous, if she was like Patty Jenkins even, the game would make sense and it would be playable. I don't even think the game's playable for them at this point.
Well, the question then becomes this one, right? I like this question Arya asked. Why haven't we seen photos or heard villains of the Acolyte yet? So the bigger question this ties straight into is, when will the promotion, if Acolyte is the flagship for Lucasfilm 2024, when does that campaign begin in earnest?
Probably May.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a drought.
October to May. I've like I said, I've heard things about other shows that are like more no. So Spreezy's saying soon. No, Spreezy. Disney. Unless you know something I don't know, they're gonna do a Disney Plus on 2024 thing, and then they're gonna show like 2 shots of some. It's gonna be a nothing. And so yeah, it's going to be a while. I mean, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not counting the animated stuff. The animated stuff will probably, start like around May and things like that. But I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like put it into a place I shouldn't put it, because I don't know. Bestman and I were having a conversation. He recently heard a couple of like pretty concrete things about other Disney Plus release dates, and just putting it all together, it looks like Bestman Bolton has an article that you should read if you haven't, but in November 21st is a possible start date for Skeleton Crew of November of 2024.
Next year. So there was November. A question tied to that. Skeleton Crew, we believe, is done. It's that they're spreading the content and flipping it to push it later because of the strike and wanting to spread things out over a longer time period.
Right.
And we know that like the Filoni, all the movie dates are probably gone, right? They're shifting sand. They've been washed away with the tide. They're gone.
I mean, well, so here's the whole thing though, is how I could see this going right now. Is I think the Array movie is completely, it could be moved away. Was the Ray one? The Ray one could get moved up to the next release date. That's completely possible. But the Ray one also has years of development under its belt, which means that locations, general structure, costumes, stuff like that is pretty defined. And so the Ray one could still do it. It's the Filoni one, the idea of Filoni and Favreau doing 2 seasons of a show, getting it out, and then making a good film on top of that.
Yeah.
That's in that time frame.
Yeah.
That's where I don't think it's possible. But think about exactly how many. Remember, Celebration was it was a look over here trick. It was a pipe dream. It was a wouldn't it be lovely if.
Yeah.
Because where does Taika's movie come into this?
Yeah.
Where does the other guy, the guy from Stranger Things, he's got a movie like, so point being is Taika's movie might end up taking that day. So I would bet on the Ray one coming first, still being either the first or the second release date if they don't make the first, but I think it could. And then the second one might be Taika's. Taika might actually end up taking that, and Dave Filoni might end up going into that 2027 release date, and which to me would make Dave Filoni be able just to chill out a little bit and not stress as much.
Well, and he's tired. But yeah, Skeleton Crew got pushed because of the writer's strike. And it was decided, let's hold on to the May date with Acolyte. May, June, whatever. And we'll push the Skeleton Crew out. When would be the thing after that? And then they just start laying things out on a calendar. And that's just how this happened. So why did the Skeleton Crew is done? We believe there may be some little tweaks that they have time to do now, but in earnest, it's done. And then they're just wait. And then
the thing is, like, for instance, that when you look at like what calendar dates for the theater stuff does Disney currently hold?
Yeah.
And they will likely hold all of those dates still.
Yeah, but they'll fill different things in.
But what goes on that date? Like the Avengers, whatever that next Avengers movie is supposed to be, is like there. We know it's being rewritten or something. The writers, some writer shakeup. That's likely going to change. So that becomes open, which means you can move a Star Wars there if you need to. Stuff like that. And then
some live action remake of a musical, whatever. Right. They'll put whatever they want in there. But that's what's going on. That's what's going on. They're just spacing things out, and it made sense to move Skeleton Crew out. And then the next Filoni-verse thing will be another year after that. It just gives them time to get things written, time for production, all of that, considering the writer's strike really postponed a lot of things. And you begin to miss dates when things are possible. Like you said about like the billboards and things, those are already booked and you got to get on a calendar and la, 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 la. So there's all that. And I highlighted this comment from Scotty because this is the truth of truths right here, right? People need to start listening to interviews themselves or reading articles themselves. Like this is a big pet peeve of Bespin's for sure. Jason's as well. But Bespin has been really like beating the drum on this. Like, actually read his stuff. I know, Bespin, if you're listening, I'm guilty. Okay, I'm guilty.
You are guilty.
Get off my back.
You're guilty.
But no, you read the article itself. Go to the source. Read it.
Yeah,
and actually read it. That helps. Don't just read the headline, and then also don't read the story that somebody wrote about the headline that they saw from another story. Right? Like we end up with the telephone game going on. And I'll give you guys a very, very concrete example. 100% concrete example. And it happened yesterday.
Okay.
When I was on another show. And my friend Jason Ward was in the chat laying down some truth. But one of the things that came up
never acknowledged it.
One of the things that came up yesterday, and it happens all the time, but this is just a concrete example of what Scotty is saying. Lucasfilm decanonized the EU, right? They made it. They announced they were making it non-canon. No, they didn't. And I actually went back and read it after the show, and looked. They never said we're moving this out of canon, we're decanonizing. None of those words were ever used. No, none of those words were used. Go back to the interviews, go back to the original stories. Not a single mention of any of that. Those words never were used.
You know, it was legends, and then they explained the concept of legends.
What they did is said, we have had this expanded universe of great stories. They're fantastic stories told by great authors, and that they have never been part of George Lucas's story. No. And as such, George would borrow concepts from them, and they gave some examples. Here's some things that George borrowed. And we were going to continue in that vein. With the announcement of the sequel trilogy coming, we are not going to stick with any of the stories that we're not going to hold the writers to the stories that were already told in this era. They're free to make any story they want. And then it goes on, right? There never was a term of they're decanonizing. There never was a word. We're not making the. We're taking this out of canon. None of that kind of thing was in there at all. At all. As it going forward, canon will be defined by blah blah blah. Yeah. That's it.
And just a side thing that popped up in that conversation where I wish I was on the panel so I could be like, actually, you know, to be that guy. George Lucas created Coruscant. George Lucas is the one that's like, Coruscant's a thing and you should do it. And he called it Had Abaddon. He put it Return of the Jedi. Ralph McQuarrie did the concept art for it. This was used for episodes 1 and, you know, inspired it. And you could see it. It exists. And then when Zahn went to write the book, taking Lucas's ideas and concepts of what these things were from, and I think it might even have, I could be wrong about this, but it might even have been had Abaddon Imperial City might have been in the West End Games role-playing game first, well before Heir to the Empire. And then so he takes the West End Games concept and puts that into the book, and he calls it Coruscant.
Yes.
And then George Lucas, and we had it was a big thing before episode 1, is the rumors are going around. George Lucas has changed Coruscant, and he's going with the French pronunciation.
I'm going to speed us up a little bit. I hear my daughter upstairs.
Okay. Oh,
so
my
daughter just stopped in. I do want to be able to say hi to her before we leave on vacation.
Cool.
And all that. But a great conversation. We could keep going all day.
We do.
We'll cut it off here. And this conversation will continue. Real quick. What is the next Star Wars thing we get on Disney Plus beyond the gallery for Ahsoka? What's the next series we get? Is it
like Bad Batch? You mean
Bad Batch season 3?
Bad Batch season 3. Yeah.
Bad Batch. Okay. All right. And when is that supposed to happen?
Same as always.
Okay. All right. It's spring.
Yeah.
Right? Spring.
I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't know if somebody else is going to do a story about this, but
okay.
But let's just say Bespin Bulletin is told me when he believes it is, and I haven't heard anything contradictory to that.
So let's just say you guys subscribe to Bespin Bulletin.
Yeah.
Go find the Bob podcast and listen to him rant about things over there to make you mad, just to have fun. No, he was quite happy that he got me riled up the other day.
Oh yeah.
He's like, oh, that's fantastic. I'm like, oh, you terrible. No, my computer's fixed. Everything's great. We're heading out on vacation in about another 2 hours. We're going to be heading out to Branson, Missouri. You guys hold down the fort next week. I'll be checking in when I can, but I look forward to getting back and catching you later. We have a real quick Mike Porter dad joke. And this one's good. It says, what snack is in a galaxy far, far away? And it ties into going camping.
Okay, it's not Admiral Snack Bar. It better not be Admiral Snack Bar.
Star S'mores.
Mike, you were hungry. I can tell Mike was just hungry.
Like, I'm hungry too. Me too.
Let's go eat lunch.
Jason, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Bye, guys.
You guys in the chat, thanks for being here. I'm going to go say hi to my daughter. So you guys take care. And until next time, my friends, Merry Christmas, and may the force be with you always. Bye-bye.